entire board of directors for entrusting me with this high honor. I can assure you that I do not take it lightly. I hope that in these next few minutes I can say something that will remind all of us why we're gathered here and perhaps inspire us to honor Dr. King with action. Let's keep the dream alive. That's what the board has chosen for our theme this year, and just for a few minutes, I will attempt to expound upon it with this thought: keeping the dream alive by preventing it from becoming a nightmare. It is probably safe to say that there's not a person here today that has been alive for a small bit of time that is not familiar with that famous 1963 speech entitled, "I Have a Dream." But I think it is especially important for the younger persons in the room that we understand how significant that moment was, not only for those in attendance that day, but how also that same moment remains equally important for us today in 2014. We cannot experience a dream or live in it if we don't know why there was a dream in the first place. You see, Dr. King was reared in a time when I can imagine it was common practice that instead of parents telling their kids fables, they could simply remind them of stories from our own history. Stories that would hopefully keep their children alive another day by causing them to appreciate their worth despite how much or how loud society might have said contrary. I can imagine they told stories of how in the late 1700s to the early 1800s, anywhere from 40 to 100,000 slaves made their way under the cover of dark through a network of safe houses from the southern U.S. to the northern U.S., just to experience what until that moment was only a concept of freedom. While they did not board a locomotive engine, it was truly a track of passengers of determination that shared a common destination. I know for me, if I was living during that era of civil rights, I would have pondered how if Lincoln had freed the slaves approximately 100 years earlier, why were there still questions and issues like separate but equal? Why did it take until 1954 in Brown v. Board of Education for the Supreme Court to say that persons of color were entitled to the same education as their white counterparts? So in all of that, and all the other history we have come to know, the first thing I saw that gave Dr. King and those who subscribed to his non-violent ways of thinking the dream was the recognition that they needed to do something. They didn't sit and wait for the government to start doing the right thing, they demanded it. And in order for us in 2014 and beyond to keep the dream alive, we too must take that first step in recognizing that despite all of our accomplishments, there is still plenty of work to be done. Secondly, once we recognize the need to do something and start in it, we must be persistent until results are achieved. You see, leading up to the March on Washington, they protested, participated in sit-ins, some were jailed and even attacked by dogs. But to the young people in this room and not so young people, you can walk away from this program today knowing this: they did not stop. And just like them, we too must not stop. You see, after the March on Washington, they did not take the attitude of, well, that's done. No, they left Washington and they continued to work until later we had the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They worked until whites united together to help register blacks to vote in what became known as the Freedom Summer. And just like those Dr. King who came before us, we must also be persistent in our work. I'm not sure what happened after perhaps the late 70s, but it almost seems as if we have forgotten that part in Dr. King's speech, where King said, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Character from the Greek refers to an engraved mark. But what I like most is that in earlier times it was used to describe an imprint on the soul. Helen Keller puts it this way. She says, "Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved." In essence, the work may not be easy, but it is surely worthwhile and will be beneficial to the soul. Now, while the work we have before us may not seem as great as what Dr. King and others fought for, I can assure you the work we have to do is equally valuable and just as relevant. Today, we are enjoying the benefit of Dr. King's work. Just take a moment and look around the room. Persons of all races, ages, and backgrounds, and religions are assembled peacefully in the same room for one cause. It is because of King's work that we have some of the greatest athletes in LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and the Williams sisters. Because of King's work, we have been able to build and establish businesses like those of Sean Diddy Combs, Russell Simmons, and even our own Albert Strong. It is also because of King's work, whether you like it or not, a black man and a white woman can get married without any trepidation. It is because of Dr. King that on a cold February day in 2007, the product of a Kenyan man and a Kansas woman stood in Illinois and declared his candidacy for the president, and now President Obama is serving his second term. 30, 40, or more years from now, history will judge us and how we honored our legacy and how we carried the dream on. Finally, Madam Chair, and we have all heard that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Simply put, in keeping the dream alive by preventing it from becoming a nightmare, it's not enough to assemble here each year. And just like our New Year's resolution, no sooner than the benediction is given and before the cake is cut, we have forgotten what this moment is all about. And more importantly, we have not internalized within ourselves what we must do to further the dream. In the weeks leading up to this day, I have been inundated with reminders that most people are off today. People wanting to make plans to enjoy a 3-day weekend, and clubs promoting their alluring events. But we cannot allow ourselves to continuously become so distracted by our social commitments, work schedules, the latest episode of Scandal, Real Housewives of You Fill in the City, that we allow ourselves to miss the opportunity to practice a little King. I mean, think about it for a moment. In all of our lives, at some point, we are presented with an opportunity, most of us multiple, to advance Dr. King's dream. Think how simple it is, young people. While in school, instead of isolating someone because they dress a bit different than you, speak a little differently than you, or they just plain and simple don't fit into your clique, maybe instead of making them the punchline in a joke, you could try having lunch with them one day. Who knows how this may impact their day, or perhaps your own. For every parent and teacher present today, you have the responsibility of not only making your own contribution, but every day you have an opportunity to impact your students, sons, and daughters by reinforcing King's message of unity and not division. Regardless of age, race, or status, each of us in this room must internalize within ourselves what contributions or acts we can make to further the dream. Recently, at the memorial service for Nelson Mandela, President Obama stated, and I quote, "We will never see the likes of Nelson Mandela again, but let me say to the young people of Africa and the young people around the world, you too can make his life's work your own." End quote. That kind of reminds me of that old school church saying, each one, reach one. In essence, there are still worthwhile issues and causes that need a champion, and it is quite possible that someone in this room may be the brilliant mind to discover the cure for HIV or AIDS. Someone in this room may be the brilliant mind to discover the cure for cancer. Someone in this room may be the person to design the next set of towering skyscrapers or write the majority opinion for the Supreme Court of the United States. What your something is for you to discover. I do, however, know that we cannot continue to lynch ourselves with black-on-black crime, and I don't care attitude, thoughts that my little bit will not be enough, or just plain complacency. Instead, let's embrace that thought of if I can help somebody as I travel along, if I can help somebody from doing wrong, my living shall not be in vain. Maybe we can try volunteering at the Spady House, helping a neighbor with a chore, or seizing the opportunity to be a mentor. I can assure you it does not matter if you are Jew or Gentile, you can keep the dream alive. It does not matter if you grew up in a two-parent home or no-parent home, you can keep the dream alive. It does not matter if you have a PhD from Florida A&M or your street creds from the School of Hard Knocks, you can keep the dream alive. It does not matter. It does not matter if on Sunday morning you roll out of bed and attend St. Paul Baptist or Bedside Baptist, you too can and must keep the dream alive. Keep the dream alive for Dr. King. Keep the dream alive for all those who came before us. Keep the dream alive for those to come, and keep the dream alive today. Thank you for your time.